Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the special town meeting of August 3rd, 2016. Since we just had a phone ring, I'd remind everyone, please turn off your cell phones. I'm Gene Cushman. I'm the town meeting moderator. And Madam Town Clerk, if you could please read the call. I'm sorry, when did you do the pledge? Attorney Collins, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, Madam Town Clerk, if you could read the call, please. Thank you.
Notice is hereby given of a special town meeting of the Town of East Lyme to be held on August 3rd, 2016 at 7 p.m. at the East Lyme Town Hall Upper Meeting Room for the following purposes. 1. To approve a resolution of the Board of Selectmen of the Town of East Lyme, Connecticut, authorizing the execution and delivery of an equipment lease purchase agreement and schedules thereto for the acquisition, purchase in the amount of $969,436 plus financing costs, financing and leasing of certain street lighting equipment, authorizing the execution and delivery of other documents required in connection therewith, and authorizing all other actions necessary to the consummation of the transactions contemplated by this resolution. 2. To approve a special appropriation in the amount of $60,000 in CNRE Fund 32 for McCook's Amphitheater to an account to be established titled McCook's Bandshell for donations received from East Lyme Lions Club, Rotary Club, and Public Trust. 3. To receive communications from the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance with respect to a resolution entitled Resolution Making an Appropriation in the amount of $480,000 for the acquisition and purchase of a full-size Class A fire engine pumper apparatus and authorizing the issuance of bonds of the town to meet said appropriation, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. 4. To consider and take action on an appropriation in the amount of $480,000 for the acquisition of a full-size Class A fire engine pumper apparatus and authorizing the issuance of $480,000 bonds of the town to meet said appropriation and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. Dated at East Lyme, Connecticut, this 6th day of July 2016. And this was published in the day paper, recorded in the town clerk's office, and posted on the signpost.
Thank you, Madam Assistant Town Clerk. As usual, we'll go over the ground rules. Under Connecticut General Statute 7-6, you must be an elector of the town or 18 years of age, a U.S. citizen, and own property in the value of at least $1,000. Under Connecticut General Statute 9-360, any person who votes on this at this meeting but is not eligible to vote may be subject to a fine of not less than $300,000, no more than $500,000, imprisoned for not less than 1 year, no more than 2 years, disenfranchised, or all of the above. I appoint the registrars as tellers and checkers, should we need them. If you wish to speak, please come up to the podium, give your name and address for the record. If you are not eligible to vote, please make that fact known before you make your remarks. And please do not conduct a dialogue amongst yourself. Please address all remarks or questions through the moderator. We'll take up the items on the call as they appear, although I believe number 3, does that require town council to read anything on 3 or 4?
No, we're going to forego the reading of the entire bonding resolution.
Okay. And item number 3, if Madam Town Clerk, if you just please make note that that communication was received. So I guess that's basically it. So we will take up the first item on the agenda. To approve a resolution of the Board of Selectmen of the Town of East Lyme, Connecticut, authorizing the execution and delivery of an equipment lease purchase agreement and schedules thereto for the acquisition purchase in the amount of $969,436 plus financing costs, financing and leasing of certain street lighting equipment, authorizing the execution and delivery of other documents required in connection therewith, and authorizing all other actions necessary in the consummation of the transaction contemplated by this resolution. Do I hear a resolution?
So moved.
Mr. Siri, is there a second? Second, Mr. Salerno. It's been moved and second. Is there any discussion? Mr. First Selectman?
Sure. Tonight, Mark Nickerson, First Selectman. Tonight we'll hear from 2 department heads on 2 of the items and a member of the fire community for the 3rd and 4th item. So it gives me pleasure to introduce Joe Berga, who knows this item intimately, who can go over some details in a short way. I'll note that all 3 of these items that we'll vote on, technically 4 votes, will be we're fully vetted through the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance as well, of course, to get here. And great detail was put in to the minutes of those 2 meetings. So, but if there are any questions, we can certainly answer them too. But I'll introduce Joe Berga. I'll give a brief presentation on the streetlight program.
Thank you, Mr. First Selectman. Mr. Bacoff?
I got the message brief. I will be brief. This is really about 2 different things. One, about the town saving money. If we purchase the lights in town and go with LED lights over the next 20 years, we should save about $2.5 million. The second is we're doing the right thing. We'll be using about 80% less energy, which is what we like to do. So this is a slam dunk project for the town. It's something that the town should be looking at to save money. The other question is $969,000. Sounds like a lot of money. We're not asking for any money. We're not looking to bond any money. What we're looking to do is pay as you go. Every year, the town pays $200,000 to Eversource to pay for the streetlights. If we purchase the lights ourselves, we'll only have to pay them about $25,000. Then there's an element that we have to pay for maintenance of it, which adds up to about $40,000, and then we have to pay back a loan over 7 years of about $150,000, which will leave us with $10,000 in the black every year for the next 7 years. After those 7 years, we'll be saving about $160,000 to $70,000 a year. So that's the math. We're not asking for money. We're not specific. There's $200,000 in the public works budget for streetlights. Not asking for any more than what we normally do, and we'll pay as you go for the first 7 years, and then it will be a bonanza of money later. But you have to pay for it. A lot of other towns, London bought their lights, going to LED. Montville's in the process of doing it. Other towns, there's 17 other communities in the state of Connecticut that are looking right now. They're looking to do it because it's the best thing for the communities to save them money.
Thank you, Mr. Bacoff. Would anyone else like to be heard? Seeing no hands, then we will move the question. All in favor of approving a resolution of the Board of Selectmen of the Town of East Lyme, Connecticut, authorizing the execution and delivery of an equipment lease purchase agreement and schedules thereto for the acquisition purchase in the amount of $969,436 plus finance costs, financing and leasing of certain streetlight equipment, authorizing the execution and delivery of other documents required in connection therewith, and authorizing all other actions necessary to the consummation of the transaction contemplated by this resolution. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by saying nay. The resolution carries. The next item on the agenda is to approve a special appropriation in the amount of $60,000 in the CNRE Fund 32 for McCook's Amphitheater to an account to be established titled McCook's Band Shell for donations received from East Lyme Lions Club, Rotary Club, and Public Trust. Is there a resolution? Mr. First Selectman, you're making a resolution? We got to get the resolution on the record
Right.
first.
Second.
That was Ms. Cheeseman and Mr. Siri. Now, Mr. First Selectman.
Sorry, I
back to you.
jumped the gun.
Yes, you did.
I'm so excited about this because we got $60,000 of donations. And really, this is just to accept that and to spend it on what they're being donated for. I'm going to let Dave Putnam, our Parks and Rec Director, give a short, brief detail on what we're doing here. But I commend the East Lyme Public Trust, the East Lyme, the Niantic Lions, and the Niantic Rotary Club. They raise money throughout the year and through all the different organizations, the different events, and they've all come together and donated $20,000 each toward this band shell. The $15,000 that the town will contribute toward this is not up for discussion tonight. It's not on the agenda because that was already passed and approved by the voters of East Lyme in this year's budget. So really what we're talking about is accepting the $60,000 and then spending it as it was asked to be spent. You might have some details that I know I just took your whole thunder, but come on up and say hi. Dave Putnam from Parks and Rec.
Thank you, Mr. First Selectman. Mr. Putnam.
So, Dave Putnam, Parks and Recreation Director, 20 Huntley Court in Niantic. Just to echo Mr. Nickerson's, some of his points is that the committee has worked very hard to raise those funds, and we've met for about a year now and come to this point where each of those three organizations have committed and already paid $20,000 towards the project. It will be at McCook Point Park up in the big field area adjacent to the upper pavilion up there. So other than that, I don't really have anything much more to say unless anybody has any questions. But it's just really accepting that $60,000 donation from those three groups.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Putnam. Would anyone else like to be heard? Yes, sir.
My name is Warren Hall. I live at 37 Park Place here in Niantic. I'd like to commend the East Lyme Lions Club and the Rotary Club for raising this money for this band shell. I understood from the last meeting a month ago that there was a sighting problem, and I hope that can be resolved. I'd like to see this money held until we can get a decent plan for the band shell itself, because I think the present plan is severely lacking. I'd like to see the shell represent the town symbol, which is a scallop shell, and I think this money is good seed money to get that started. I'd like to see this money put towards a design and raise more money for the construction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Would anyone else like to be heard? Mr. Rando.
Ronald Rando, 194 Boston Post Road, East Lyme. That's in Connecticut. You know, I'm not for or against this project, but I hope it doesn't end up like the tennis court at the high school, where we put it up with 60 grand and then we're gonna have another 60 grand to finish it. If we're gonna build the damn thing, let's get a good plan drawn up. Let's build it right. Just don't put up some kind of shack that looks good. Make sure it's built right. It's gonna last for my kids, their kids, and their kids down the road. Because every time we do something, high school gym, swimming pool, high school, and the boardwalk, we do it half, you know what. So let's do it right if we're gonna spend some money.
Thank you, Mr. Rando. Would anyone else like to be heard? Seeing no hands, then we'll move the question. All those in favor of approving a special appropriation in the amount of $60,000 in the CNRE Fund 32 for McCook's Amphitheater to an account to be established titled McCook's Band Shell for donations received from the East Lyme Lions Club, Rotary Club, and Public Trust, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by saying nay. The resolution carries. I heard one nay. Item number 3 is simply receiving communication, which the Assistant Town Clerk has noted. Item number 4, to consider an action on an appropriation in the amount of $480,000 for the acquisition of a full-size Class A fire engine pumper apparatus and authorizing the issuance of $480,000 bonds of the town to meet said appropriation and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowing for such purposes. Do I hear a resolution?
So moved.
Mr. Siri. Is there a second? Second. I don't know that young lady's name. You know, okay. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on that matter? Mr. First Selectman, and then Mr. Randall.
I'd like to introduce Bill Ricks, who's a member of the, are you prepared to make a presentation tonight, or at least talk about a brief couple comments? Again, fully vetted through the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance. This is we are, by the way, ongoing in a police department study, a full-on study about personnel, equipment needs in this town, and what the future is going to look like for the fire protection in our town. We're in the midst of that study. However, we're also in desperate need of a pumper truck up. We have 2 aging pumper trucks, to the point that at one point, a little while ago, we didn't have any in working condition. Of course, mutual aid helps, and nobody was in danger, but we are confident that this one pumper truck will bring us to where we need to be, and then this fire study will come in and show us what we need to do in the future. So Bill has some details on this, and thankful for all the work that they put into this. They spend a whole lot of time on these studies to make sure that they're buying the right equipment at the right price for this town. So
Thank you,
if
Mr.
you
First
could fill in
Selectman.
some
Mr.
blank
Ricks?
for us.
William Ricks, Assistant Chief, Flanders Fire Department, 140 Roxbury Road. As Mr. First Selectman Nickerson said, we're looking to replace one of our fire engines. It's a 1993 Spartan chassis built by 3D Manufacturing, who is no longer in business, so it's almost impossible to get parts for and fix. It's roughly 42,000 miles and 3,000 hours of operation on it, which is a lot for a fire apparatus. It carries 1,500 gallons of water. We carry so much water because of the lack of hydrants at the other end of town. It is currently out of service for safety repairs needed to make for brakes and the pump, and it's estimated around $20,000 to make these repairs, and that doesn't guarantee that it's going to be fixed after the fact. Not to mention $20,000 is more than the worth of the apparatus itself. NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association, that sets the laws and regulations for us, says that engines need to be replaced at 20 years. Ours is currently at 23 years. New England Fire Apparatus, who has the town has purchased the last 2 ladder trucks and last 2 engines from, has built a demo to our specs with a chance that we may or may not purchase it. If we don't purchase it, it comes off the line. It's up for grabs to anybody in the country. This particular one is a 2016 Smeel Sirius 2 MFD chassis and pumper, carrying 1,250 gallons of water. We couldn't get 1,500 anymore because you can't get it on a single axle. And if we were to purchase 1,500 and get a dual axle, it won't fit in our firehouse. We did get competitive pricing from other fire apparatus dealers as requested by the Board of Selectmen. A couple of people came back with higher than what we're looking for and lower than what we're looking for. The lower prices were missing a lot of the day-to-day stuff that we use for day-to-day operations. So we are currently asking for $480,000 to purchase a full-size Class A pumper. The demo purchase price is $469,847. They're giving us a trade-in value of $15,000. Rough number of around $7,000 for equipment installation. So for the actual total, it would be around $461,916.50, give or take a few dollars. Obviously, it's an $18,000 difference, but we leave that for the unknown if something comes up that we have to cost more to install or fix or move something. Like to keep in mind when we were able to purchase the ladder truck last year from the townspeople's vote. We were approved $1.3 million and we only spent $1.1. So just because the money's there doesn't mean we're looking to spend it all. We just want to get what we need to keep us operating safely.
Thank you, Mr. Ricks. Would anyone else like to be heard? Mr. Randall?
I have some questions, so this gentleman should stay up front, I guess.
Mr. Ricks, you want to come back up?
Rando, 194 Boston. You know, this is like the fox guarding the chicken coop, you know? And as Donald Trump says, it's rigged. Well, just look around. The meeting's rigged, too. Okay, so through you, Mr. Moderator, did we look into maybe buying a chassis like a Peterbilt or a White or a Mack or something like that and changing what we have on this truck over to one of those rigs?
Mr. Ricks, you want to answer that question?
No, we do not.
Why not?
You're going to get the microphone.
We did not look into that because if we bought a cabin chassis with just 2 seats, it takes away how many people we can transport in the vehicle, which means volunteers have to drive their own vehicles to emergencies. And now the town is more liable if they get into an accident, go into an emergency. Not to mention if we go out of town, we need to bring our people with us, not have them go in their own vehicles.
Well, do we have a crack frame on this rig too?
We do not have a cracked frame. I stated that in the Board of Finance meeting that I never said that or published it anywhere.
I didn't say you said it, sir. Don't try to put words in my mouth. Somebody at the meeting before this told me that the frame was cracked.
I don't know who's told you that. I never said it. It's not cracked.
Okay, how bad is the frame sprung?
They are both, I believe, 1.5 inches out of Lyme.
So are we looking at a stronger frame on this new rig?
Yes,
How much stronger?
whatever the specs say.
Why don't we go with a dual axle if it's stronger?
It's not going to fit in our firehouse.
Well, you know,
You
we
guys
have
wanna
to,
build
we
a
have to save the
firehouse?
town taxpayers some money around here.
Okay.
You know that? We owe $43 million in bonding debt now. And we just keep bonding more and more every year. I'm strictly against this purchase. We
Mr.
don't
Renner, do you have
need
any
it.
more questions of Mr. Ricks?
No, I don't.
Mr. Ricks, you can go ahead.
I'm strictly against purchasing this rig. We don't need it. We can't afford it. But as always, if it's something for education, it's packed by the education system. If it's something for something else, it's packed by them. It's about time that we start thinking about the taxpayers in this town. I've been riding around the other towns around here for the last 6 months. You can't count how many houses are on your out for sale on your 10 toes and your 10 fingers. Just go over to Waterford or Saybrook or Mystic and see what the towns are growing. We're stagnant here. Nothing's doing. As our first selectman says, we got tax money coming in with new businesses. What? Pizza shops, marble shop. What do they bring in? We need buildings in this town to bring tax money in to help the taxpayers. We don't need this rig. We got plenty of equipment around the town, and we didn't need another ladder truck because we already had one. But what I say, nobody listens to anyway, but I'm always going to say it.
Okay,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Randall, but this meeting is not rigged. This meeting is open to
Sir,
everyone
that's
in this
my
town.
opinion.
Meeting is open to everyone in town. There's nothing to keep taxpayers from coming in here and voting.
That's my opinion,
All right.
okay,
But I
Mr.
don't want you
Moderator?
disparaging the town meeting.
That's how I feel about it.
Would anyone else like to be heard? Seeing no hands, we'll move the question. To consider and take action on an appropriation in the amount of $480,000 for the acquisition of a full-size Class A fire engine pumper apparatus and authorizing the issuance of $480,000 bond of the town to meet said appropriation and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowing for such purpose. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed by saying nay.
No.
The resolution carries as one negative vote. Those are the last items on the agenda. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Seary. Is there a second? Ms. Cheeseman. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by saying nay. The meeting is adjourned.